All right, welcome back to Toy Informer. I know it's been a while since I've been able to do a video for this channel over here, but don't worry, I will start doing these more regularly going forward, at least trying to get something new once a week if I can here on the channel, whether it be something related to video games, toys, weird collectibles, cards, etc. I'll have some sort of content out hopefully every week. Today, however, we are going back to Gaming Gold. This is my video game series where we talk about those sort of hidden gem type video games, some games you might not expect are worth as much as they actually are. And we are specifically going to focus today in on Nintendo 64 games. That's right, N64. It seems so long ago now when that system came out, and there's still some games out there that are highly collectible. So if you're out there at yard sales, flea markets, wherever you are, or even in your own personal collection, you might still be holding on to some of these cartridges that, like I said, are worth a bit more than you might expect. Hopefully you're enjoying this show as well as everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing this tiny little channel. And like I said, I will have more things coming on the regular, but for now, if you want to see this episode, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. All right, as I mentioned, let's get started with a new episode of Gaming Gold, and we are going over to Nintendo 64 and starting off with Indiana Jones. That's right. I mean, I recently got done playing the Indiana Jones game for the current Xbox. It's actually a lot of fun. If you guys haven't tried that one before, I started that just before I got into Assassin's Creed, but back on the N64, there was this game here called Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine. It was more of an action-adventure type game, came out in the year 2000, and, you know, it was kind of like an early, what do you call it, like 3D open world-ish kind of game system. I mean, that's what N64's claim to fame was. It took us more from the side-scrolling platformer to more of this open world with some of the games that we were getting at the time from, like, PlayStation and some of the more disc-based games. So even though it was still a cartridge, this is what we got with Indiana Jones. Now, this game here, this cartridge can actually get yourself $95 for just the cartridge alone. You don't need the box, you don't need the instructions, just the cartridge by itself, almost $100. Now, if you do manage to still have the box and the manual, etc., now you're talking more about $390. So almost $400 there. And if it's still somehow, again, I don't know how you're going to find sealed Nintendo 64 games, but in case you somehow do and stumble across it, well, you just found yourself over $1,200. So keep that kind of thing in mind, especially with games that feature like popular IPs like Indiana Jones, comic books, movies, etc. There's generally a wider audience, so sealed games in particular will get a huge premium because a lot of folks are grading these games now. Granted, you can grade games, in any form that you want, but those sealed ones get those big numbers, so a lot of people go and hunt for those and want those for their collections. Those people who have a lot of money to spend and really want to recapture that nostalgia. Now, just to give you some context, here again was a sale. Granted, some of this date might be a little stale because I had planned to do this show back in about March, but still, you get the idea. And back in March, one of these games sold, complete edition, not new, brand new, sealed, but still, box and everything, $415. So you can see that average price wasn't that far off. So $415 for a boxed version of this game, which isn't too bad if you can find one. Now, moving on, we're sticking with the N64. Again, I'm going to keep it with just this console for today. We're going to move on to a different property that is quite a bit different than Indiana Jones. We're going to go into Looney Tune land for a second and check out Daffy Duck as we're looking at Duck Dodgers. So Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century, or however it goes, I think it's 24th and a half. This was a platformer. So this goes back to the old school platformers that we used to love and used to play, but it's still in a 3D version of the platformer. So this is the new wave platformer, which eventually lent its way to more of the open world games that we have today. So still kind of in that same vein as that Indiana Jones game. Now, with that said, this game, this cartridge, $100. $101 on average is what you can fetch for just the cartridge alone. If you somehow still have the box and the manual, well, $382. So pretty close to our Indiana Jones game there as far as price goes, as is the new and sealed version, which is almost $1,200. So both of these games, considering they're well-known properties with Daffy Duck and Indiana Jones, both of them can fetch a decent premium if you can find them. And here's an example again of a complete boxed edition, $300, cartridge, manual, box. Not a bad price if you can find it. Now, moving on. We're going to keep it rolling here and take a look at a Transformer game from back in the day. This was Beast Wars. Now, considering we just had that Beast War or the animal, Transformer movie that just came out last summer, or was it 2 summers ago now? Regardless, we may see more of these Beast War type characters in the future with the Transformers. Not sure. This game, however, was a fighting game. So back in 1999, still kind of on the heels of your Mortal Kombats, your Street Fighters, we were getting a lot of fighting games, and this was one in particular that also joined that cadre. A little bit different because it was robots and Transformers, but still pretty cool. It's almost like that Gundam fighting game. As you can see here, you can fight in beast form or robot form. There's different power sets depending on what you're working with, timers, basic control setup of any other fighting game that you might have had from before. This is $110 if you find just a cartridge. So even better than the last couple of games, $110 for this cart alone. If you somehow still have the box, you got yourself $800. Box and manual, I should say. Somehow still sealed? Well, strap in. $2,500 basically, if you still have this thing sealed. That's a huge number for this game, but it's one of those things. It's a Blockbuster exclusive here, so finding it still sealed would be pretty near impossible, but I guess there's a chance that you could find it out there. That's also why it is a little bit on the rarer side, because it came through Blockbuster as a rental-only game, so if you did get it, you might have gotten it used and just repackaged and sold as a, at your local Blockbuster once the rentals kind of died down. Point being, it still does pretty well, and you can see that the game with the box can sell easily for, that's just the box. I'm sorry. Just the box was $400 back in February, and just the manual was almost $400 back in February. So that's not even just a cartridge. I showed you the cartridge price, but the box and the manual, considering it was a Blockbuster game, aren't easy to find. Those things got lost a lot. I used to work in a Blockbuster. Gaming manuals always got lost. They always got lost. They rarely ever got returned. And if they did, they were beat to hell. With that said, this is one to keep an eye out for. Who knows what you might stumble across. You're out there, you're wandering around a flea market, a Goodwill store, something like that. You see some old video games, take a look. Maybe you remember some of these things from one of these shows, because some of these games are worth the time and effort just to just peruse through the pile, because you never know what you might find. With that said, let's move on to our next game, and this is a weird little one. I don't remember playing this one, but this is Goemon's Great Adventure. If I'm saying his name right, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it. If it's Gaiman's or Goemon's, Geomon's, I'm not sure. Like I said, this wasn't in my wheelhouse, so I wasn't playing this platformer in 1998. But you get the idea. Once again, little running around, little kind of fighting game. Well, not fighting, but a little platformer. I mean, it is what it is. This is how you had the boss fight there with the big skeleton dude. It's a fun kind of game. With that said, cartridge, $137. $137 if you can just find this cartridge out there. So keep an eye out for however you pronounce his name, keep an eye out for it. And if you find the box, well, now you're talking $320. $320, and if it's somehow still sealed, well, $1,200. Kind of like our last grouping there. And to give you an example, here's one, $390, so almost $400 for a complete edition. You see the game, you see the manual, you see the little Nintendo 64 thing that they threw in there half the time, and the box. Almost $400. So if you can find it, you did good. All right, moving on. We've got another one here for you. This one is more of an RPG. This one was Ogre Battle 64. Ogre Battle. I don't remember this one either. There was a lot of Nintendo 64 games I didn't get to because I spent most of my time either playing GoldenEye or Rogue Squadron. Like, that's all we kept playing, over and over again. It was one or the other. back in the day. I mean, yeah, there was the occasional Star Fox game and whatnot like that, but those were the two that dominated my Nintendo 64 gaming back in the day, personally. With that said, here's an example of an RPG from 1999, Ogre Battle 64. If it brings to mind any of your memories here, looks like an old school classic Japanese RPG. It's got like a Chrono Trigger kind of vibe that I'm getting here. I like the animations. I like the cartoonish type characters. Granted, it looks like it's going to be a turn-based type fighting game, type of RPG. Looks kind of cool. These are mostly looking like cutscenes here. But with that said, if you find the cart, almost 150 bucks. $148 on average for just the cartridge alone. With the box and manual, now you're talking $270. Still sealed, it's almost 400 bucks. So definitely something to keep an eye out for. Old school RPG. Here's an example again. In-box, manual, $300. One sold back in February. So the evidence is there that these things can and still do sell. And can and still be found with boxes, etc. So you never know what you might come across out there. All right, I seem to always find a way to work in one of these titles because this series of games was one of my all-time favorites, and that's Castlevania. So anytime I got a chance to talk about Castlevania, I'm going to put it in there. Just be glad I'm not wearing another Castlevania t-shirt. But this one was Castlevania Legacy of Darkness, action-adventure game from 1999. See if this spurs any memories that you have of it. I think I tried this one, but I definitely did not play this one a lot. This was more of like the werewolf angle for the game. The graphics were a little rough by today's standards, but still got the classic, Belmont whip action. And the cartridge alone, 160 bucks on this, basically. 158 on average for just the cartridge alone. Box and manual, now you're talking 370. Still sealed, almost 700 bucks. So once again, another good one to keep an eye out for. I mean, I'd keep an eye out for all Castlevania games if I could. But here's another example again, $391.68 back in February for a box manual edition. Cool. Evidence is there. These things do sell. You can get good money for these. And here's another weird title for you to keep an eye out for, and that is Worms. More of a strategy, sort of a strategy-based kind of game, 1999, Worms Armageddon. Now, this one, I don't believe I actually played this one, but I do remember the title. I do remember the series. Here you go. You've got, I want to say strategy, but it does kind of look like a mix of different platformer-type games, multiplayer action. So, I don't know. Looks interesting. Looks like something I could have played, but I don't remember playing this one personally. That said, I kind of wish I still had one because the cartridge is $211. 211 bucks for just the cartridge on this one. And if you still had the box, you're talking about $1,000. You're talking about $1,000 with the box and the manual. And if you somehow, some way, still have it sealed, well, now we're $3,162. Some big numbers on Worms Armageddon. Yeah, just craziness, right? And here's the evidence. March 20th, box and manual, $1,000, $999.99. That's a good return, especially if you found it somewhere like a used game store for much less than that. Yeah, who knows? All right, here's another fun series. I used to love playing these ones as well. I don't know why. It's a very simple kind of setup, but I was always a fan of Bomberman. So playing those Bomberman games, I was always down. This one, Bomberman 64, the second attack, I honestly don't remember the difference of the different Bomberman games. I remember playing Bomberman a lot. Which ones I played, honestly, I couldn't recall. I just remember playing a lot of Bomberman, different bombs, doing different things, yada, yada, yada. It's considered a platformer, but, this one was a little bit different in the sense that you had a little bit more of a wandering thing as opposed to the more inline Bomberman. I guess the old school is what I'm more thinking of like you had the kind of grid action where you're on a board map. This is a little more open world wandering, I guess. Definitely interesting. Definitely pricey too. If you have the cart, $250 for the cart alone. Just the cartridge alone, $250. With the box, well, $1,100. $1,137 on average. which is weird considering the sealed is also about $1,100. Sealed or not, this thing is worth a good chunk of change. And here's an example of a box and the game at auction, mind you. This was at auction with 19 bids, $1,225 back in January. I know data's a little dated now, but I made this deck a little while ago. Point being, it's still pretty relative, though, when we're talking about video games. So, something to keep an eye out for if you can find a Bomberman 64, the second attack. It's a good bit of money. Now, as we're nearing the end here, I think I got a couple of more to go your way here from the N64. Let's take a look at this selection here. We've got Super Bowling. That's right. Super Bowling on the N64. No, it's not quite Wii Bowling. Sports game. Because, bowling is a sport. Released in 2000. Here you go. It's got kind of a, I don't know, I guess a hip angle they're going for. Look at these crazy characters. You can get your turkeys, you get your strikes, you pick your characters, and you go Super Bowling. Cool. This cartridge, $520. So you might have been laughing at that kind of setup. And oh, I'm sorry, why is it that? It's supposed to be Super Bowling. My bad. I didn't change the thingy. There we go. Through the magic of editing, I fixed it. It's Super Bowling, not the Geomon. Or however I can't even. It had to be the one where I don't know how to say the game right. But Super Bowling, $520. Evidence there, $700 somebody spent on just the cartridge. $700 for Super Bowling. It's craziness to me. With the box, $2,337 for Super Bowling. And if it's somehow still sealed, $7,000. $7,000 for Super Bowling, people. It's craziness. I'm telling you, there's a lot of weird stuff out there. Like, I don't remember all of this stuff. Well, there's a lot of weird stuff out there. And that's not even our Ghost, because we have that coming up right now. And the Ghost we have for the N64 is one that I've covered before, I think on an earlier show, but it's still worth remembering. It's also one of those blockbuster-only games and one that a lot of folks look for. It's a grail to many. Clay Fighter, Sculptor's Cut, fighting game from 1998. This was one of those fun early 3D fighting games, but it being with blockbuster exclusive, it had some characters that you might not have been able to get a hold of or whatever. It's a game that is a grail to many. So keep that in mind. If you somehow could stumble across a Clay Fighter 64, just the cartridge, it's $1,000. $1,075 for just the cartridge. And if you somehow could still get that box that you would have gotten from Blockbuster, well, $5,450. Special edition. More gameplay, more characters, more humor. And if some miracle you find a sealed one, can you guess where we go from here? The price is up, folks. $16,895. Almost $17,000. You could buy a car, or you can buy a sealed Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut. That's crazy. And here you go. A boxed edition sold. 30 bids at auction for $7,400 back in February. Yes, $7,400 on 30 bids, mind you. A lot of action, a lot of people looking for this. Like I said, it is a grail to many. Clay Fighter 64, Sculptor's Cut. And with that, that is the last game I got for you today. Hopefully you found that interesting. Hopefully you found that entertaining. I like taking these little trips back, down the lane of nostalgia and remembering some of this stuff. And even the stuff I didn't get to play, it's still fun to kind of take a look back and see that and see some of the prices in case we all get lucky enough to come across these games, whether it be in our own houses and collections or when you're out and about wandering in the wild. Who knows what treasures you might uncover when you're out there looking at old games. So, once again, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know what video game system you might want me to cover next. I can go back to 3DO. We can do some Jaguar if we want to do some weird stuff like that. TurboGrafx. Anybody want to go back to TurboGrafx? We can check that out. We can go back to the old school Sega. We can go to Genesis. Back to regular Nintendo, there's still plenty to cover there. Super Nintendo, we can go into the disc world if you want to get into the PlayStations and Xboxes. But by and large, it's the older stuff that really is the more impressive numbers. But there's still a lot of good collectible stuff, even with the newer games. So with that all said, thanks for taking this ride with me. I'll be bringing more content back here to Toy Informer as soon as I can. And with that, I'll see you all later with some more content. All right.